Hello viewers, and welcome to the latest and greatest episode of the LOTR LCG Progression Series by Cardboard of the Rings, the bi-weekly podcast about the Lord of the Rings, the card game, which is a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. This is sure to be one of our more popular videos because this time we're going to be covering all-time fan-favorite scenario, the Hills of Emyn Muil. So before we kick things off, why don't you go ahead and catch us up, Matthew, on where we left off in our story.
Having lost Gollum's trail at the Carrock, our heroes then embarked on a mission of mercy into Nazgul. Now, though, the hunt for Gollum continues to the south as the heroes pursue him in the Hills of Emyn Muil, but there the lead grows cold. Somewhere in this region, Gollum is hiding, and the heroes must explore carefully to regain the trail and resume pursuit.
So that about says it all. In this adventure, the heroes are going to be searching high and low for any sort of trace of Gollum before his trail grows completely cold. So this is going to be similar to the hunt for Gollum in that it's going to be all about exploring difficult locations, but it's definitely going to be kicking it into overdrive when almost all of the encounter deck consists of locations with a few treacheries and even fewer creatures. But why don't we go ahead and take a look at our staging area here, because this game starts with some of the most daunting locations in play in the staging area. And the first of which is this location Amon Hin. So it weighs in at X threat, where X is double the number of players in the game, so it's going to be starting off with a value of 4 and remaining as such throughout the rest of the game. It requires 5 progress tokens, and while it's the active location, Amon Hin prevents players from playing events, and it's of course 5 victory points. And also in the staging area, we have its sister location, Amon La, which is also going to be threat value of 4, requiring 5 progress tokens until it's explored, and when it is the active location, treat all attachments as if their printed text boxes were blank. So right off the bat, we're going to be starting the game with 8 threat in the staging area, and we're going to have to try and pick one of these dangerous locations to try and overcome. So is it exposing ourselves to potentially very dangerous treachery cards, or is it, potentially denying ourselves the benefit of a lot of beneficial attachments? But what else is it in this encounter deck that we have to look out for, Matthew?
Sure. In our attempt to accrue at least 20 victory points to secure our victory and get back on the trail of Gollum, there are a few enemies that are going to try and thwart us. And the new enemy for this pack is the Orc Horse Thieves. They have an attack strength of 1, defense strength of 2, and a whopping 6 hit points. Doom 2, so every time they hit the staging area, our threat goes up by 2, and they also get +1 for each location in the staging area. That could become pretty deadly if there is a backlog of locations. And there's also a really nasty treachery included in this encounter set, which is Rock Slide. And when revealed, Rock Slide deals 2 damage to each character committed to this quest. It also has an equally sort of potent shadow effect, which is remove defending character from combat. This attack is considered undefended. So that could cause for some untimely hero deaths. We're going to be questing a lot, so it's just regular when revealed effect is also very nasty. So this encounter deck definitely has some danger to it that we'll need to keep an eye out for.
Alright, well with that said, why don't we go ahead and take a look at our decks. So this game, I'm going to be running 2 different spirit heroes and 1 leadership hero. So I'm going to be focusing on extremely strong questing ability to try and overcome this initial 8 threat in the staging area, and of course a big slog of locations building up in the staging area as well. So I've got Éowyn and Frodo, who are going to be able to contribute very potent questing ability. They're joined with Prince Imrahil, and as you can see, I have a ton of allies that are a little bit sacrificial in their effects. So Escort from Aedoras, Snowborn Scout, the Rittermark's Finest, Westfold Horsebreaker, a lot of characters that are going to be essentially designed to leave play. I've got Sneak Attack, which is going to be great in combination with Éowyn, since I have so many Rohan characters and allies in this deck. Some Cancellation Effects, which is standard for me. A little bit of card draw, and a little bit of tricks in this deck just to really go ahead and snipe some specific locations in the staging area. So as much card draw and questing ability as I could possibly cram into this deck. But what is it that you're going to be playing with today, Matthew?
So, as I've mentioned a few times throughout the progression series, one of my goals is to use as many of the new cards as possible, but also to use some cards that were maybe underused or undervalued when the game was developing. So, I'm playing a deck that's pretty different from anything I've played before in that I only have one tactics hero and two lore heroes, Bearvor and Glorfindel. I initially added Glorfindel just because he's not used very much, but he does have that added benefit of having a whopping 3 willpower, which should hopefully come quite in handy during this quest. I have a mix of some tactics and lore allies. I added secret paths to help us negate some of the threat. Made sure I had 3 copies of Blade of Gondor, and that way if Legolas is killing anything, it's still going to be adding some progress to the quest.
Certainly, and why don't we go ahead and get our game started? So as you can see, we've gone ahead and set our beginning threat levels at 27 and 31 respectively. For this scenario, there's really not a lot of threat increase, so other than just the potential of questing unsuccessfully and having to suffer the occasional Doom 2 effect, I'm not too concerned about hitting 50 threat. I didn't bother to include Galadrim's Greeting in my deck at all, so this should be interesting. We're definitely straying from our usual deck formula, but why don't we go ahead and get things started? So let's shuffle up our decks and draw our initial hand of 6 cards. And it looks like I'm relatively happy with my starting hand.
You know, with this deck being so new and I'm not sure what would be good or bad, I suppose I will hold on to my hand as well.
All right, well, with that said, why don't we go ahead and do our quest setup portion of the game. So as always, you can see we've already got our 2 beginning locations set up here in the staging area, Amon Hen and Amon Law, and this is really the first time that we've ever had just a 1 quest card location. 1 quest card scenario. So we've already set up those locations. We're going to go ahead and shuffle the encounter deck at this point, and our single quest phase is very simple. It only requires 1 quest progress token to be defeated, but we cannot defeat this stage until we accrue 20 victory points in our victory display, and there are no Emyn Muil locations in play. And its forced effect reads, if there are ever no location cards in the staging area, the first treachery card revealed during the quest phase gains Surge. So it's got a little bit of added ability to conjure forth some sort of location if we ever manage to clear the staging area. But with that said, I guess I'm ready to go. Shall we start our first turn of the game?
Let's have at it.
All right, and I normally take the mantle of first player. What should we do this game?
Let's stick with tradition.
All right, it continues. So first player is myself. I'm going to go ahead and do my resources. Draw 1 card. Wow, and things just get better and better. I want to go ahead and pay 1 leadership resource for a Campfire Tales. So why don't we each draw 1 card?
Okay.
Wow, yeah, this is just a spectacular opening hand for me, so I'm going to go ahead and pass on the rest of my plays for this turn.
Oh, might as well give myself resources, eh? Well, I'm just not loving my hand. It could be the fact that I'm just not really a huge fan of lore, or that I'm just not really sure what to do. The first card that I will play will be a Hinnemarth River Song.
Okay.
And then I'm going to play a Protector of Lorien. My issue here is I'm not really sure who I want to put it on, because I'm not sure who I would want my defender to be. My instinct here says to put it on Glorfindel, because if Bearvor is ever ready, she's probably doing card draw, even if she has a slightly better defense. So, and, you know, since Glorfindel will probably be questing more than Bearvor, again, I want to sort of save her for card draw. I think Protector of Lorien will be best served on Glorfindel.
Okay.
So I'll put it there. I won't be spending my tactics resource this turn, so that is it for me.
All right, well, why don't we go ahead and initiate questing? And this is going to be pretty simple for me. I'm going to go ahead and contribute all of my characters, so we can expect a lot of locations coming off of the encounter deck. I'm going to go ahead and commit a total of 8 to the quest. And what would you like to send?
Right. Interestingly, I sort of feel like Protector of Lorien doesn't mesh all that well with Éowyn, because then I would be having to discard a ton of cards. But with that said, Hinnemark Riversong for sure, Glorfindel for sure. That's sending 4.
And 12 should be pretty good. Really, all we have to do
Okay.
is just break even at this point, since there's no location for us to drop progress on. So
Okay.
that should be plenty.
All right. Well, then I will just send these 2.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and do our very first staging here. So card number 1 is going to be a Chieftain Uftak. So this is actually probably, well, it is the worst enemy that can possibly come into play, and very first turn, so.
And what's funny is Mitch and I were discussing this particular enemy, and he's like, there's only one in the encounter deck. We'll never see
Right.
it.
What are the odds?
So what's the first card?
Right.
If there's a silver lining, the Chieftain is worth 4 victory points, so that would help us get to our goal just all the faster.
Right, and you're
quicker.
perfectly right. So card number 2 is going to be the East Wall of Rohan. So at this point, it looks like we're going to be failing the quest by 2 unless we ditch a couple cards. And the East Wall of Rohan here, while it's the active location, non-Rohan characters cost 2 additional resources to play. Fortunately, I have a lot of Rohan characters. But
I do not, but I will chuck a veteran axe hand, as much as I hate to, but I will get rid of that.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and ditch a Rittermark's Finest, and that is, of course, making use of Éowyn's ability. That should bolster us to 14, and that means we are going to be breaking even. So let me go ahead and discard that, and that, of course, leads us to travel. So we've got quite a few different options here. We've got 3 different 4-threat locations. This East Wall of Rohan is really going to kind of hamper the amount of cards that we can get into play.
Yeah.
I could certainly...
To me, Amon Law seems like the least offensive. My Protector of Lorien wouldn't do anything for right now, but that's not the end of the world if we can get this cleared out soon.
Certainly, and I'll be able to play an ally next turn that should make pretty short work of the East Wall of Rohan. So
okay, I assumed that's what you were hinting at.
Right, so shall we travel to Amon Law?
Let's do it.
All right, so our first location is now active. We've got a minimal amount of attachments in play to suffer. This printed text box is blank effect. And now we have engagement. So Chieftain Uftak, any interest in engaging this enemy?
No, I'm going to hold off until I have a few more allies in play, I think, before I deal with him.
All right, so I cannot blame you there. So I guess that brings us to refresh. I'll boost my threat by 1. I will make you the first player, and we'll go ahead and do our resources.
Okay, well, the first thing I'm going to play... Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and play a veteran axe hand.
All right.
And that is it.
So for my turn, I'm going to go ahead and strip 4 resources off of my spirit characters for a Northern Tracker. So I think a very powerful second turn play, especially in this scenario. It does not leave me with any resources open to do any sort of cancellation effects, but hopefully this isn't going to come and, bite me in the ass. So
right, he has a hearty 3 hit points, so hopefully he'll do okay.
Sure, and all of my other characters are resilient enough anyway, so that's all from me.
Well, let's see. Shame on me for not using Bearvor last turn, but again, not used to playing lore. I left her open with the thought of doing that, and then it slipped my mind, so I definitely won't forget to have either Mitch or myself benefit from Bearvor this turn. Either way, I'm going to send Glorfindel and Hinnemark Riversong to the quest.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and send, I believe, all of my characters yet again, which is going to be a total of 9 from me, 12 and 13 from you. Northern Tracker's response is going to go ahead and place 1 progress token on each of these locations, and I'm going to go ahead and make a note that we've got 13 committed to the quest. So with that said, are we ready for staging?
Yep.
Alright, so card number 1 is looking to be a Dal Guldur Orc. So the first player, which is you, is going to pick 1 character currently committed to a quest, deal 2 damage to that character.
Well, I guess I'm just going to kill Hinnemark Riversong.
Okay, so probably not the worst loss, and of course Prince Imrahil is going to ready because of that effect. And our second card is going to be a Rock Slide, and I'm very glad that you didn't pick Frodo as the recipient of this. So this is going to be 2 damage to each character currently committed to the quest, which is going to have an awful lot of targets. So Éowyn is going to take 2 damage, Northern Tracker takes 2, Glorfindel takes 2, and Frodo takes 2. Instead of letting Frodo die, I'm going to go ahead and boost my threat by 2, not reduce my threat by 2. So there's that Rock Slide. Hopefully we won't see another. Hopefully in the future I'll have a spirit resource open. So that leads us to the end of staging, though. So we've got a total of 12 threat against us. We've sent 12 willpower to the quest. Protector of Lorien is essentially doing nothing at this point. Do we want to go ahead and ditch cards to Éowyn to make a little bit of quest progress?
Well, I'm not sure if this is the right call or not, but I'm going to ditch Burning Brand. My thought is it's usually going to be allies that are defending, if at all, so yeah, I'll chuck that one.
Okay, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick and discard a Westfold Horsebreaker. So that's going to boost our total willpower up to 14 right before quest resolution, and that's going to result in 2 progress made on Amon Law. So definitely not a spectacular attempt at questing, and I can certainly see how if we didn't have, such a huge amount of willpower to commit to the quest, things could end pretty nastily. But with that said, travel, we do not have any options. For engagement, the Dol Guldur orcs are going to be engaging you.
Yep.
Or I could certainly take this as a defense, since I've got Imrahil sitting here.
Well, Legolas will be able to kill them and make some progress on the active location, so I'll go ahead and take the orcs.
And I think I forgot to put a couple points of damage on Imrahil when the Rock Slide triggered, for whatever reason. But the orcs are going to be engaged with you. Here's a shadow card for them. And what do we want to do with these?
I'm going to have my veteran axe hand defend and hope he survives.
Alright, and the shadow card is nothing.
Okay.
Very weak location, so it takes 1 damage, but survives.
And then Legolas will swing for the kill.
Alright, so Legolas is able to kill it, and he triggers his response, which is 2 points on our active location. Alright.
I'll go ahead and trigger Bearvor. Do you need cards, or should I take them?
I could certainly dig for Steward of Gondor, but I don't really find myself desperate for cards. Do you happen to have many healing effects in your deck?
Well, I was going to use Glorfindel to heal your Northern Tracker this turn, even though I was saving up for a 4-cost ally next turn, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. So since you asked, I'll pay that 1 resource now.
Okay.
To heal the Northern Tracker. So either way, did you want the cards or no? I have nothing stellar in my hand, but nothing bad either. So
sure, I'll take them, just because things will really start working if I get that Steward.
Okay, so that's that.
All right, so thank you very much. And I didn't quite get that, but I did nevertheless get something pretty potent, so... All right, with that said, shall we do our refresh?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we refresh, boost my threat by 1, and if you'd be so kind as to make me the first player, I'll go ahead and draw a card, do my resources, and oh gosh, my options. I've got quite a few. I think I'm going to go ahead and pay 1 spirit resource to do an Ancient Matham attached to... Well, I guess I'll guarantee its triggering by attaching it to the east wall of Rohan here. And that is all I'm going to be doing for playing.
I can't play anything.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move on to questing. And before I commit all of my characters to the quest again, something important to keep in mind is that if on the off chance we see another one of those Rock Slide cards, basically all of my heroes except for Frodo are going to be completely wiped out. But hopefully that's not going to happen. Hopefully we'll be able to make it through without any sort of devastating effect like this, because I feel like this round we're definitely going to get our staging area under control. So why don't I commit all of my characters here to the quest? I'm going to go ahead and trigger Northern Tracker's response, which puts 1 progress token on each of these locations, and the east wall of Rohan is going to be completed. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to our victory display, and that of course gives us our first 3 victory points, attempting to reach that sum of total, and the trigger, the response of Ancient Matham also triggers. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to my discard pile, and I'm going to go ahead and draw 3 cards. And I got a few excellent different effects. So another bit of insurance against another untimely rock slide, and a few little questing characters. So with that said, I've committed all of my characters for a total of 9. What are you going to be doing?
Well, I'll send Glorfindel for sure.
So it looks like at the present moment we're only going to be up against 6, and we only need to make 1 or 2 progress tokens.
Okay, well then I'll leave it at Glorfindel.
Alright, so I think that's a total of 12 that we've committed. I've certainly got a card to ditch to Eowyn, and let's do our staging here. So card number 1 is a Eastern Crows, and this is of course going to surge. 2, a new location, the Outer Ridge. So while it's active, each location in the staging area gets +1 threat value. Pretty nasty little location. And our card number 2 is going to be Enchanted Stream. So 2 threat, 2 progress tokens. When active, players cannot draw cards. So it looks like we're going to have a total of 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 threat in the staging area. I think we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 committed to the quest. So that makes 1 progress token for the players, which is going to be enough to explore Amon Law, which itself is going to be worth 5 victory points. So I'll go ahead and add that to our victory display, and we are currently sitting at 8 out of those 20 points required to complete the scenario. So with that said, we move on to travel, and we have quite a few different options here. We've got Enchanted Stream, we have Outer Ridge, and we've also got Amon Hen. So are any of these jumping out at you? I know next turn I'm going to be able to clear Amon Hen out of the staging area, and none of the other locations are really looking too appealing to travel to.
No, I agree.
Yeah, the Enchanted Stream would strip us of 2 cards, Outer Ridge is potentially pretty nasty, and that's really our only options. But we've got 2 enemies here. One of them, the Eastern Crows, is going to be engaging with me, unless you want to optionally engage.
Yeah, I can certainly take the crows.
Alright, so you'll snag our crows, and I'm not going to do an optional engagement. Here's its shadow card, and how do you want to deal with this?
Axe Hand will defend.
Alright, so the Axe Hand defends, and the crows do not have a shadow card. I forgot that Evil Storm is in this encounter deck, so now I feel interesting about my choice of excluding Galadrim's Greeting.
And then Legolas will kill the Eastern Crows.
Right. So I guess taking that into consideration, we probably should have picked a location to travel to.
Right.
But totally spaced my mind, so...
Mine too.
Our apologies here. But in any case, the Eastern Crows is going to be killed, and it is shuffled back into the encounter deck.
On the bright side, we get the 1 quest token we need, our progress token on the actual quest card.
Right, exactly. So you'll have to pardon us for probably taking this scenario a little bit less than seriously. But with that said, shall we go ahead and do our refresh?
Nope, because I am going to use Bearivore to draw myself 2 cards.
You caught it. Excellent.
And I'm also going to use Glorfindel to heal someone. The question is who? I could certainly heal himself, but would one of your characters benefit from 1 point of healing?
Well, I guess Eowyn would be dying no matter what. Prince Imrahil would suddenly be saved from death. The Northern Tracker, too, would be saved from, say, a reveal of a rock slide. But are you wanting to save those resources? It seems like an awfully expensive way to heal characters.
I don't have any other healing effects at this point, so if we're wanting to save people, this is how we're going to have to do it.
Okay. I suppose probably the most important one is to strip another damage off the Northern Tracker.
Okay.
All right. Well, I assume you've spent that resource, so thank you very much.
Yep. Now we can refresh.
Yeah. And I assume you drew the 2 cards from Barivore?
I did.
Excellent. Anything decent?
Nah.
All right. Well, I've made you the first player, boosted my threat, I've done my resources. What is in store for your planning?
Well, I'm finally able to afford Haldir.
Perfect.
And let's see. Tactics resources. I'm at 34 threat. I'm going to have to deal with Chieftain Uftak either next turn, but maybe this turn if there's some sort of threat increase. So I'm going to go ahead and hold on to my tactics resources.
Okay, and I should be able to do quite a bit of questing for us this turn, so why don't I go ahead and pay 2 resources from Aowen in order to do a Rittermark's Finest. And that's all I'm going to be doing for my turn.
Okay, so for questing, I will send Glorfindel, of course, and then I'll send Haldir Force 5.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send these 4 characters, and I'll trigger Northern Tracker's response, so that's 1 token on Enchanted Stream, 1 on Outer Ridge, and 1 on Amon Hen, and then I'm going to go ahead and exhaust and discard the Rittermark's Finest to put 2 progress tokens on Amon Hen. So this is going to be completely explored, so I'll go ahead and add that to our victory display, and that is going to give us 13 out of the 20 points required to complete this scenario. At this point, Prince Imrahil, his response triggers, so he is now readied. And I've contributed a total of 9 to the quest. And you've contributed 5, which is going to give us a total of 14 against the 6 currently in the staging area. So why don't we go ahead and see what we reveal. So card number 1 is an Eastern Crows, which of course surges, just like last round, into a Necromancer's Reach. And this is going to be 1 damage to each exhausted character. This would kill Aowen, so my hand is forced in that I've got to spend 1 resource from Frodo in order to do a Test of Will. But I'm now out of spirit resources. And our second card is going to be an Enchanted Stream. So this is actually pretty fortunate, and I'm feeling, yeah, like I lucked out there. So we're going to be up against a total of 9. But with that said, we're going to make a total of 5 quest progress.
So I suppose we should be smart this turn and probably travel to the Enchanted Stream, because Legolas can take care of that when he kills the Eastern Crows.
Certainly. So why don't we go ahead and travel to the Enchanted Stream, just like you said. Eastern Crows is going to be engaging with one of us. I could certainly just tank its attack with Prince Imrahil.
Well, again, you know, if I use Legolas, we clear the Enchanted Stream right off the bat.
Right. I was just wondering, I guess...
Oh, well, he has ranged. I see what you're saying.
Well, I was more wondering, I guess you don't have enough attack strength to kill Chieftain Uftak. Is that correct?
I was...
Yeah, it looks like you're too shy.
Right.
So... I guess,
I was gonna wait till
shall we just do that then?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So, Eastern Crows, I suppose it's less risky to have the Axe Hand do it. But,
yeah.
Sure. So, Eastern Crows, optionally engaged with you. Axe Hand defends. Shadow effect is attacking enemy gets +1. So, it is going to be killing your veteran Axe Hand, unfortunately.
That's okay. Legolas will go in for the kill.
Alright, so Eastern Crows is going to be killed. We'll shuffle that back into the encounter deck per its forced effect, and that of course makes 2 progress tokens on Enchanted Stream. So Enchanted Stream is completely explored.
Alright, and before we're done, I'll exhaust Barivore. Would you like to draw the cards, or can I?
You certainly could. I'm still trying to dig for Steward of Gondor, but...
Okay, go ahead. You can have them.
Alright, so thank you very much. And I did not draw that, but I did draw a certain wizard that would be fantastic in getting rid of Chieftain Uftak.
Sure, I've had a few in my hand and no resources to pay for him.
All right. Well, shall we go ahead and do refresh now?
Yep.
All right. So just note that readying of Prince Imrahil didn't end up doing anything for us. I'll boost my threat. You've already made me the first player, so let me do my resources.
And now I have all 3 copies of our wizard friend.
Glorious. I'll go ahead and draw my 1 card. Alright, so for my planning, I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 resource from the very vulnerable Eowyn. I'm going to play another Ancient Matham here on Enchanted Stream. And I'm going to go ahead and pass for the rest of my planning.
Okay, I'm going to play another Veteran Axe Hand.
Okay.
And I will go ahead and use, because I don't have any lore cards that I'm saving up for, or that I'm hoping to play, so I'm going to strip 1 resource off Glorfindel to heal. Would you like to heal someone of 1?
I could certainly, let's say, well, I guess Eowyn would require 2 before she's, immune to player death. But I think I'm going to go ahead and target Imrahil, just because it would, well, yeah, it'll save him from untimely death. I guess a Necromancer's Reach could also kill Eowyn, but I've got those 4 resources on Imrahil, so I'll keep it as it is.
Okay, and that's it for me.
Alright, so why don't we go ahead and do questing. And at the very beginning of the quest phase, I'm going to go ahead and pay 1 leadership resource from Prince Imrahil in order to play Sneak Attack.
I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
And I'm going to go ahead and pick Gandalf. So I'm going to drop him into play. I'm going to go ahead and just lower my threat. So I'm going to move on down from 33 to 28, and I'm going to go ahead and commit characters to the quest. So I'm going to see if I can avoid sending Eowyn, just because she would be at risk of death from Rockslide, and seeing as how Northern Tracker is going to clear out both of these locations, it's going to be a pretty simple, order of business to take care of this. So I will send Gandalf, Northern Tracker, Prince Imrahil, and Frodo. So this is going to be a total of 9, as per usual. Northern Tracker's ability triggers, and both of these locations are going to be explored. So Enchanted Stream is going to be gone, and its effect here is going to trigger. So Ancient Matham, its response is going to make me draw 3 cards, and I still haven't quite gotten what I was looking for. But, of course, the Outer Ridge is also going to be explored, which is a victory point location. So I'll add 2 more points to our victory display, and at this point it makes 15. Something to keep in mind is now this forced effect on our quest card is going to be going off. So if there are no location cards in the staging area, the first treachery card is going to be gaining Surge. So that about does it. Who are you going to be sending to the quest?
I am not going to be sending anyone.
Alright, so I've gone ahead and contributed 9. Let's see what we reveal. So card number 1 is a V Highlands, which is probably the most inoffensive location in the history of locations. Coincidentally, the Highlands plus Chieftain Uftok is going to be the remaining victory points we need. But why don't we go ahead and do our next card, which is Pursued by Shadow. So when revealed, each player raises his threat by 1 for each character he controls that is not currently committed to a quest. So at the present moment, are you planning on being able to kill Chieftain Uftok this turn?
Yeah, I'll be able to.
Alright, so why don't we go ahead and...
So my threat goes up by 5. I'm up to 40, kind of scary.
Yeah, I normally would consider canceling this effect, but because this is going to surge, because it's the first treachery revealed during the turn, I really don't want to take that risk. So we'll take that little hit to our score. And our final encounter card is going to be an Eastern Crows, which of course surges into an additional card, which is another Pursued by Shadow. And since this is the final treachery effect, at this point I'm going to go ahead and pay 1 resource from Frodo in order to, a test of will, cancel this when revealed effect. So,
okay.
Oh, and I guess for that very first treachery, I would raise my threat by 1, since Eowyn is not committed. So, with that said, we're currently about to resolve our quest. I think I'm going to go ahead and pay 1 leadership resource in order to do yet another sneak attack, and this time I'm going to pick a Snowborn Scout. So I'm going to go ahead and target the Highlands with his ability, which is going to put 1 progress token on that, and it of course is going to be added to our victory display. And that brings us to 16 victory points, so we're 4 away from victory, and Chieftain Uftak is going to be 4 victory points. So I suppose that'll bring us to the end of questing. We're currently going to be against a total of 3 threats. I had committed 6, so we're going to be making, I'd committed 9, so we're going to be making 6 progress, which brings us to 13 quest points.
Okay.
So, end of the round, both Snowborn Scout and Gandalf return to my hand, Prince Imrahil readies, and we skip travel for engagement. As first player, I'll optionally engage Eastern Crows. And what would you like to do?
I have to take the Chieftain.
All right. So Chieftain Uftak will be with you, Eastern Crows with me. I'm going to go ahead and have Prince Imrahil defend against the Eastern Crows. And, well, I guess this really isn't the end of the world. So a Rock Slide Shadow. Remove defending character from combat. This attack is considered undefended. So there's going to be an undefended attack of 1. Prince Imrahil has 1 damage token on him. But I'm going to go ahead and assign that 1 undefended damage to Frodo. So, Shadow Effect
Don't want to take it as threat?
No, I think well, it doesn't matter. It's not going to
I suppose
change our score either way.
That's true.
So.
That's true.
How about...
I just don't like seeing all that red. I am going to use the 1 tactics resource I've been saving for a feint.
Perfect. All right, so we don't have to worry about that shadow card. How do you want to deal with Chieftain Uftak?
And because this is just going to win us the game, swing with the team.
Perfect. So, of course, you get to make that colossal attack there. I guess before your attack resolves, I get to have Eowyn finish off our Eastern Crows here, which is exciting. Right. So I'll kill that enemy, shuffle it back into the encounter deck, and you swing for a total of 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which brings Chieftain Uftak to -3. He is going to be added to the victory display. We will go ahead and boost our victory points to 20 at this point. This shadow card is going to be discarded without any effect at all, and of course, it wouldn't have done anything in any case. But that is our quest. At this point, we do not have any Emyn Muil locations in play. We've collected exactly 20 victory points, and that is the Hills of Emyn Muil. So, Matthew, what are your thoughts about this scenario?
Yeah, I can really appreciate the designer's attempt, or what they were hoping for, right? We had sort of a battle-heavy quest in the Conflict of the Carrick. We had the time ticking down with Will Eudor dying and getting more and more damage. And so they really wanted to make the travel phase a little bit more exciting, because often travel is sort of uneventful. It's probably maybe the least fun aspect of the game. So I definitely give them an A for effort. I think if they really wanted to make this quest an interesting challenge, though, most, if not all, of these locations should have had the text immune to player card effects. That way Northern Tracker and Lorien Guide couldn't absolutely own this quest like they did. I purposefully didn't use Spirit, so that way we would both be running Northern Trackers, because I thought that would be rather anticlimactic. So, again, A for effort, but when it comes to actual execution, it's a rather humdrum quest. Yeah,
I certainly tried to include a lot of different effects in this deck, like the Prince Imrahil combo just for fun, effects like Escort from Aedoras to really get a huge amount of questing ability on the table, but really, despite including multiple copies of Ride to Ruin, that didn't really come to any tremendous effect. It was fun using that 1 copy of the Rittermark's Finest for an ability. I was, of course, able to do the old sneak attack Snowborn Scout trick to snipe a location at the very last minute to save us another round in this game. But overall, whatever Fantasy Flight Games would have chosen to do, maybe it's, if a progress token if a single, or, you know, like, reduce the amount of progress tokens added on Emyn Muil locations by 1, or whether they had some sort of effect like that, where you could still do sneaky things like Ride to Ruin, adding a few progress tokens, something like that. It just seems as though once we break through Amon Law and Amon Hen, the quest is all downhill from there, and so long as you're able to avoid the occasional rock slide. I don't remember if there are 3 or 4 copies, but it seems like we saw a couple of them, you know, pretty early on in this quest. It's just not that difficult of an affair to make sure you keep all of your heroes alive.
Well, I will say that, you have quite a bit of damage on yours. I've got 2 on Glorfindel. His ability, actually, interestingly enough, I didn't think it would have much effect in this quest, but I was glad that I was able to pay for a few things to heal some of your characters.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is expensive. I'd have been curious to see how we'd have done if we'd have, say, pulled a rock slide as a win revealed as opposed to a shadow effect, and I'd have maybe lost Imrahil and or Eowyn. I'd be curious if it was, you know, would have been sufficient to just keep that lone northern tracker alive, combined with Legolas's killing ability, combined with just the general questing ability we had. I think there were a couple silly mistakes during this scenario, like the forgetting to travel to a location when we knew we were going to make progress tokens, and the Barivore mistakes, but overall, I just find it so unexciting that this scenario has, you know, 1 quest progress required when we sit here with 13 times the amount required. It just seems like it just really falls short of what could have been a really fun scenario. So
Right. I think I played this once originally. I beat it with what I remember is relative ease, and then so this makes me, having played this quest only twice since I've been playing the game from the outset, and it's probably not one that I'm going to dig out of the box all too often.
certainly. I was going to mention, I think as soon as we get to some of the healing effects that we're going to end up seeing at the end of the Duero-Delph cycle, a particular ally that splits his healing between 2 targets, this quest just cannot stand the test of time. And it was probably the first time I was ever truly disappointed with an adventure pack. But
Right. With the advent of the Nightmare decks that are coming out from the core set, it wouldn't shock me if they do them for maybe the Shadows of Mirkwood quest. I don't know if they will or they won't, but this one I think would be a prime contender. And then right off the bat, having a static effect for this quest, all locations immune to player card effects, which would absolutely change the way this quest works. And it might become very interesting because you're going to be between a rock and a hard place, no pun intended, with choosing which active location quest effects you want to deal with.
yeah, I certainly think so. So I think this scenario probably more than any other really demonstrated to FFG that the travel mechanic in its current Shadows of Mirkwood iteration is a little bit dull, but thankfully it definitely picks up in the near future. I think FFG has done a pretty good job of pretty consistently learning from their mistakes and little, going astray from what's really making an interesting scenario. So with that said, any final thoughts?
No, I'm looking forward to the Dead Marshes.
All right. Well, then with that said, you guys know the routine. As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. There's plenty more content to come. Just like Matthew said, we're both looking forward to our adventures into the Dead Marshes, where we're hopefully going to end up finally laying hands on Gollum. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.